You're listening to Dude Podcast with JC and Will. Put some pep in that step. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Will.
And I'm JC.
I'm Max, and you're listening to Dude.
Yeah, we got a rock star. We have a genuine rock star on our podcast.
That's what you get.
That's what you get. Man, this is fantastic. We have been we've been texting, me and Will, for months, secretly stalking you, Max, and hoping that we could potentially get you on here just because you are a true bona fide rock star. I came to the realization that you were a real rock star when I saw your band. Were you Bird Dog then, or were you Wilderado then?
When was that?
I guess that would have been 2016, 2017.
Yeah, wow, really? Where'd you see us then? Was that with Ryan Bingham?
Yeah, that was with Ryan Bingham. I got to eat cold cuts with you guys. That was my cool, like, I get to hang out with the band. Like, I was just eating like turkey slices with Ryan Bingham, and I was like, doesn't get much better than this, to eat that and that Cracker Barrel cheese. You know what I mean? And we're just kind of going to I think at one point it was just me and him. I was like, hey man, just eat the cold cuts. He's like, hey dude.
Just you and one of the bona fide coolest dudes in the whole entire world.
Yep, just eating cold cuts together. And he's probably like, who the heck is this guy? I'm like, I live in Hoboken. I used to know Max. Like that.
He has no idea who Max is.
He's like, all right, man. That guy is so hot.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how old is he? Like, he could be like 60, and he's like Brad Pitt, where you don't really know how old he is, and he doesn't really age.
I mean, in person, it's overwhelming how hot he is. And he's just so cool, and he's so nice.
Does that make you mad at all? Like, doesn't it make you mad when someone hits on all cylinders and you're like, I'm only hitting on Max, like, 1.5 cylinders?
I think if there were 10 cylinders and I was hitting on 8 or 9 of them, it would make me mad. But hitting on 1 or 2, and then you see a guy at 10, it's more like looking at the Rocky Mountains or something. You're just like,
exactly.
It's beautiful.
He is. I fell under his charm, though. It was one of those like instant, like it was one of those weird things where you're like, I know I'm a straight man, but it was one of those things where you're like, well, I could, in a weird world, I could see myself falling in love with this man.
Yeah, this is a spectrum, and someone's revving the gas. He also just was so kind. Did y'all watch Yellowstone?
I never did, but I know about the global phenomenon known as Yellowstone.
Yeah, Yellowstone.
Is he in that?
He's in that, and he's as cool as anything in that. I think he's had a big like upswing just across the board on all of his workings.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he I think one of the cool things about him too, and then we'll actually don't get to you.
Can you imagine? we talked for an hour about.
I could give you his number.
Was he like pulls off that look? You know, sometimes like it looks so forced, like the country, like that. I kind of like I don't even know what you'd call it. What is it, like hipster country aesthetic?
It's not even a look. I mean, the thing that's cool about Ryan Bingham is he's the most cowboy of any of the cowboys. He owns horses. He lives on a ranch, and he's like roped and grew up in the rodeo. I mean, it's like he's as authentic as it gets. To aid in the swing of getting out of this, we were Bird Dog then, but now we're Wilderado. And I don't think, have either one of y'all ever seen one of our shows? Might as well get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, yes. No, so in New York. So when I lived up in Hoboken, I got to go, and I think that's, I didn't really. We're gonna get into you becoming a musician because none of us knew you even had that gift in high school, which is so straight, which, by the way,
I did.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but I also would say that did you think at the time that he would be in a world-renowned band?
Well, we're going to have to pull the brakes on some of this. Some of the world renownedness, we're going to need to shrink. Pulling in.
I just small. A semi-successful band. No.
Max and I mean, I could barely even play guitar anymore, but we used to have fun playing with guitar all the time.
For the record, Will was my first introduction into music that I loved. I mean, hands down, the first person I ever jammed with, Will straight up taught me to play guitar. I mean, I don't know if you consider that to be true, but I do. You were the first person to ever show me the cowboy worship chords.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
Will and I would jam freaking church songs and guster and sing.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was my literal first, because I grew up playing piano, doing piano lessons, but Will Skaggs was my very first introduction to like the love of playing music.
Because I texted you in high school once and I said, Max, I wrote a song, which I did, just be just an idiot writing a song. And I said, yeah, I know you play piano. Can you come to Miss Sharp's class? And we went to a little like room with a piano and we started playing along with it.
And then we went to Asbury. Remember, we somehow broke into Asbury?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
We played that song. I mean, heck yeah, dude. I remember all that well. We used to meet up and that was kind of the basis of our friendship. Really the basis of our friendship was laughing.
Yeah, big time.
and then we realized that it was really fun to play guitar and sing.
Yeah, we did that a lot, actually.
We would go find churches all over the place that, like, for some reason, we kind of had like a lockdown on churches that were left open. I remember but they've gotten super locked down. But I remember, yeah, for some reason, there was a handful of churches that had really nice pianos and no one would be in there. And me and Will would be in there late at night playing and writing songs.
And I think we attempted to record them. And like you said, like, we were always making each other laugh. We couldn't even get through recording anything.
No. I even remember traveling down to Stillwater from Waco to still do that. We were still doing that in college.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, let it be known. The record is the dude Will Skaggs was my first introduction to it. And then I started studying Sunday. After Will and I were having fun, I realized that I lived with a real songwriter, my sibling Sunday. And I started watching.
Because that was the thing. Sunday was always singing, at least for my, that's the thing. I knew that we all knew she could sing on the Red. I mean, that's why I knew that you could sing with Will, but I didn't know that you had, I guess, that your gift would take you where you're at now.
Well, and then also there's singing and having fun and writing songs. And then there's people who are naturally good at it. And Sunday was just always naturally good at it. And I would watch Sunday be at the piano and sing. And that was kind of that's when I started to really study it, I guess, and think about what the construction of a song is and what words mean and what melody is and all of that before. But Will was here's the thing about what Will gave me is at the end of the day, it has to remain in this place where it's just like lighthearted and sweet and nothing matters other than like the enjoyment of it, the emotion of it. Is it fun? Is it moving you? Do you want to close your eyes? And like, dude, I mean, I know you guys don't have to get all serious and sweetheart about this on this pod, but that was Will for me, man. Playing songs with Will was when I realized, like, man, this moves me, I guess. You know what I mean? Music moves me, and the combination of voices and collaborating and doing this with another human being is a powerful thing.
Yeah, we had a great time doing that growing up. No, that's fun. That's fun to hear.
This is a question that I think about. I would love to hear your answer, because Metro was so interesting in that we actually
To be clear to the people who are listening who aren't familiar with us, all three of us went to a school called Metro. So when you refer to Metro, that's our
I was talking about the type of sexuality of a man. I'm talking about metrosexual.
We lean culturally Metro.
I think that term has sort of gone away, by the way.
I think that term's never really been defined.
It's true. That is true. But I think it's so interesting that we have to have the most successful musicians per capita. It was really weird. right? That like between you, Ben Rector,
Duffy.
Sunday, Duffy. I don't know how much. I know Joe did a decent amount of producing. Joe Kane.
Who's the drummer I love? I mean, one of the very best drummers in town,
Chris Wiley.
Chris Wiley.
And then Parker. I mean, Parker Farrell, and
Kyle Colhane.
I mean, it really was it was kind of crazy when you think about the talent that was there, and then that talent didn't just, again, hey, that was a fun thing. They went on to actually have, we've had, again, probably 3 or 4 bands that have been varying levels of real success. Why do you think that is? Do you ever think about that? Like, it's weird, right?
I've never thought about it, but it is. I mean, if you think about how little the school was, especially there weren't, there was 400 kids in the high school.
Yeah, in high school. Yeah.
All those little kids running. That was the other funny thing that people saw. We had such a weird Metro was such a weird experience because it was like high schoolers, and then all of a sudden you'd be like walking and you'd like trip over like a 4-year-old. There was just like children that would just be like, and just chaos. You'd be like, having inappropriate jokes with your friends, and then all of a sudden, like, you feel bad because there'd be like a 5-year-old like looking at you like, and you're like, didn't mean to.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
One of the very best things of high school for me was I had a hour before lunch where I was the the K3 aide, and I would go to lunch with the 3 and 4-year-old class, and their teachers would just leave, and it would be this whole long table. There was like 23 3 and 4-year-olds and me, and I'd like be scrambling, opening their lunches, sitting next to them. They'd be asking me questions. And I would eat so much food. I mean, they wouldn't eat anything. I mean, you guys know now, it's like they'd all just be staring at their lunches, and their mom would make them these like killer sandwiches, cookies, crackers, chips, drinks. It was amazing.
You're sitting there just going, you're going to eat those? All right, here we go.
I loved that.
Yeah, no, that was one of the strange and awesome elements of going to Metro. One of my favorite things, for sure.
I have a little Metro story involving Max. And sometimes in life you remember these little moments and they're burned in your brain and they're completely insignificant. And Max has a little hole in my brain in that insignificant part where
you have a hole in your brain and it's Max.
Multiple.
It's massive.
Probably need to get that checked out, man. Not good.
The other day I was making a sandwich and it turns out I was putting mayonnaise on the router. I got a problem. But anywho, Max and I had geometry together, and that was just absolute chaos of a class. And we sat next to each other, which was a problem. And I remember we had a test one time, and the question was, can you draw a tetrahedral? Do you know where I'm going with this, Max?
A tetrahedral.
Yeah. And you didn't know the answer, so you drew a dinosaur, and little stick figures next to it going, "Run! It's a tetrahedral!" And all the little stick figures are like, "Ah!" It's the dumbest thing ever, but I thought, like, I'm never going to forget this moment.
Dude, I honestly feel bad about that sometimes, because did you know that teacher lasted that 1 year?
Yeah.
We had a wall of shame in that class. We hung up a piece of paper that said the wall of shame, and we'd all hang up our back race.
I think we did that to multiple teachers. When I say we, I mean the collective student body did that. They weren't prepared for...
We need to find her and make sure she's up. What was it? Do you remember her name?
Gauthier.
Oh, wow, it was Gauthier.
That reminds me too, Will, of Max. I don't know if you had him, but who was the teacher that became the dentist? He only was a science teacher for 1 year, and he became a dentist.
He's like, wait a second, I know way too much about this to just be teaching it.
It's a crazy turn where I think he really took some hard looks in the mirror after dealing with us. But I'll also remember, I have to bring this up just because this is something that I'll be on my deathbed and I would never forget. The classroom itself was very isolated from the rest of the classroom. So it already just like exuded chaos already because it was like so by itself. So like no one behaved themselves. But I remember he was having a really hard time because we were just cutting up so bad. It was me and DB and JD and Chris Lewis and all those guys. It was like
That's the lineup for sure.
Yeah, that's an all-star.
it was an all-star class. It was incredible. This poor guy. But this is what I mean. He was having a bad day, and I remember, honest to God, I will still be the loudest. He was up. He was like, "Okay, if anything else happens, I am done." Like he gave us his dramatic speech. He turns his back and he's riding on the board. And no joke, the loudest fart I've ever heard in my entire life. Like to the point where you're like, is this as it's happening, you're like, this can't be a fart. It's too loud.
That was way too professional to be a fart.
It was like I would say a barge. It was like a barge in the classroom. And we were all just like, and he was like, who did that? But it was so loud he couldn't locate where it came from. And then eventually it turned out it was Ethan Patton. It was Ethan. And he said, I'd been holding that in for weeks. So he was another one where I'm sorry I took that a different direction, boys, but I just had to. I just thought,
man, we gotta get him on the show. Where's Ethan right now? Can you imagine how long he's been holding? I mean, weeks that's a good save.
It was incredible. It was, and I actually genuinely believe him because it was like whatever that was like
he actually knew how to do that.
the supernatural fart. It was incredible. But yes, he was another teacher that we made some really hard life choices after just dealing with us for a year.
I remember loving Ethan Patton. It was like,
he's a great guy.
I spent no time with him, but every time I had an interaction with him, I remember just thinking, that guy knows what's up.
Guy's the man. That guy's the man. Well, maybe we can get him on here and tell that story because
I've been holding that for weeks. I'm going to say that. That's going to be the first thing out of my mouth the next fart I have. My little girls are going to learn how to say that. They're going to know that's what you say if you ever fart in public.
It was incredible. But okay. So you go to Baylor, you graduate from Metro, you go to Baylor, and then you start playing like at coffee shops and stuff like that. Like at what point are you kind of becoming you came out with your music? Like when did you start kind of displaying it more openly?
Yeah, definitely in college. So the thing that was kind of cool, it was cool in theory, it was lame in practicality, was Baylor's marketing school had this thing called, what was it called? Uproar, which is an interesting, the Baylor's. But it was essentially just a music business class, and the music business class put on essentially a competition each year, and you could audition a song, and if you were chosen, they paid for you to record it, and you were put on a compilation album, and then you were assigned a student manager, and you were walked through the process of what it would be like to record and try and market your music.
What a great thing.
It was very cool, like I said, in theory. Knowing how much money that school has now, and also having done loads of recordings since then, it wasn't that cool. But I will say, it was like a nice combination of like the business side of things, and also just the idea of pursuing, I guess just the idea of doing something with songwriting or, being a performer rather than just sitting in your room and doing it. But that was straight up it. So, I mean, and honestly, it's kind of interesting. It's so I tried out with the first or second song I ever wrote.
I still have them on my iTunes somewhere.
Oh, do you really?
Yes.
And then I was on that deal, and I wasn't even going to do it. I had a friend convince me to do it that lived in my hall, and he and I both got on. And but it's from the very first time I wrote a song, it was within a corporation, and to some degree, which is somewhat odd. But Yeah. But that's kind of how it went. And then they put on shows for us, and we had a little record came out. And so, yeah, the very first gigs were through that. And then, I mean, really, I think every gig in college was through that, because it was essentially like kind of having a booking agent. They straight up booked us shows in Waco.
That's awesome.
And we played maybe a dozen. I mean, we played a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty. Do you look back on not the process of all of it, but do you look back on the music and go, "Ugh," or do you look back on it and go, "Yeah, that was, I see what they were doing, and I respect those guys," or are you kind of like, they kind of missed the mark a little bit?
I think I respect it because I'm sure several marks were missed, but at the end of the day, I've never heard of that before, and it really was beneficial to me to some degree. I mean, I at least had like a very immediate perspective on a lot that not a lot of people do, and they kind of were tied into like EMI, which is a really big Christian label in Nashville. I'm not sure if it still exists, but they like took us to Nashville. We did a showcase for a record label, like a actual record label in Nashville, and so they're being sourced with like real information. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think there's loads of things I would have loved to have some, control of if I could go back however long ago that was. And, if they asked me my advice now, but I think looking back, it was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool way to kind of have an introduction to like, oh, this is actually a thing that people do and succeed at and have careers with.
But then you go out to LA and you have, you got your feet wet a little bit. You kind of knew what you expected to some degree, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think more than anything, just like what it was like to, record or play in front of people. So I went out to LA and Sunday and I started playing a lot, and we toured around and did loads of college circuit stuff with like NACA. I don't know if you ever heard of NACA. It's like National Association of Campus Activities. They essentially, you can try out with as a band or as an artist, and if you get accepted, there's like these regional and national conferences too that they'll send you, and you get to perform and do like a 15-minute showcase in front of thousands of students. There's like, they bring in student governments from all these different schools that are looking to book entertainment for the year. You go and play, and then you like go and stand at a booth in a little fair essentially. But we did that for like 2.5 years.
That's such a weird way to get your music and your entertainment out there. But at the same point in time, I get why it makes sense, because I think about when we were at Oklahoma State, and I'd be reading the newspaper at the time, and all the time there'd be acts and music and people from Second City or whatever that'd be performing at or the different performing centers throughout Oklahoma State. So it makes so much sense that would be a viable option.
Yeah, and it was kind of like, what else was there? I mean, it was Sunday and I were wanting to work together, and we kind of fell in with this group that was real plugged into that, and they needed songs written for them. And we did that. And then we straight up toured for 2 years. I mean, we did a lot of dates in front of a lot of people. I mean, it was crazy. It was like we were playing in front of thousands of people lots of times, and in front of a clock. They were 15 minutes, and they'd have this countdown timer at every single place right in front of you, and you would walk out there to a dead silent, packed auditorium, and you would like showcase yourself. It was wild.
That is crazy. Now, was Sunday, did she go? I can't remember. Was she at Pepperdine, or was she was out in
Pepperdine?
That's right. So she was out there first, and was she the one who said, "Hey, Max, I think you should be out here," or did you guys both collectively say, "Hey, I think we need to go to LA and do this"? How did that happen?
Sunday was going to finish their final semester at Baylor, and then we were going to just move to Austin. I was like, that was the only idea we had, and there was no plan other than that. But then Sunday pitched this idea to me, and they had run into a friend of ours, kind of become a lifetime friend of ours named Nick, and he essentially was like, I've got this band, we've got an entire tour booked, and our lead singer just quit weeks before. And so he was like, do you, just speaking only to Sunday, want to take his place? So Sunday said, well, I've got a brother, I'm moving to Baylor. And he was like, well, bring him too. So I got a call from Sunday. I believe it was summer before her and I were going to finish Baylor together. And basically Sunday said we could either start from nothing in Austin or we can go straight into a tour.
Yeah. That is wild.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny now. We always talk about the next right thing. You know what I mean? As far as like how far we look into the future. And for Sunday and I, that was just the next right thing. So we did that, and it lasted. I mean, we did it for 2.5 years until it no longer made sense for me. And kind of somewhere in there, I started writing Wilderado songs. And I instantly recognized them as, not instantly, I started to recognize them as something that didn't fit into the world of what we were doing. And I also I think was curious what it was like to have control of something and kind of make my own decisions and that sort of thing. And so I ended up writing several songs and was playing music and jamming with a bunch of friends in Los Angeles, all of whom kind of became the Bird Dog Band. So it was like those paths just kind of diverged. So essentially we made 12 recordings as the band that started this project, and they're all with this guy named James McAllister. He recorded them all. He's also from Tulsa. He was living out in LA, and a dude in the band who was playing bass at the time named Eric Arndt was like, he knew of James and suggested using him, and we all thought James was cool because he had done a lot of like Sufjan Stevens stuff, and he was kind of plugged in and seemed smart. He was a drummer and blah, blah, blah. But he made our first 12 recordings, and then we took one of those songs. It was called The Ocean and the Sea, and Tyler, who was the guitar player still in the band, worked for this company called Aviator Nation. Y'all know it. It's like a really big bougie sweatpants company. It's real.
Yeah. Again, they're striped. It's the stripe thing. Yeah.
You know, we have a funny relationship with that company because Tyler's worked with them for a really long time, kind of on and off, and is real close to like the, high up aspects of that company. And they've given us loads of opportunities, and I don't know, interesting company to be like, strangely it's parallel with to some degree. But there was a girl working for them who, I don't know if y'all remember, but in like 2014, 2015, music blogs were still a huge thing. And there was a music blog called Indie Shuffle, and literally all they would do is just release songs, and they had loads of like listeners or readers or subscribers, whatever it was, and people would just find their niche indie music through stuff like that. And she worked at a PR company and just plugged us into their press release, or like basically opened up their outlets of all their email addresses and just blasted all those people off record with The Ocean and the Sea. And several of them picked it up, Indie Shuffle being one of them. And then, try to talk as fast as I can, a guy in England.
Take a deep breath.
There was a kid in England who lived in London, and he worked for a company called Ignition Management, and Ignition has always managed Oasis. And he sent us an email 3 days within that song coming out, and flew to LA to meet us, and we've been working with him. Yeah, we've been working with him ever since. So it was like us and Oasis on this management company.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Just fighting were they just fighting each other the entire?
Pretty crazy now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's crazy how your network just kind of sewed that all together.
That's so bizarre. And I'm also still so confused about the sweatpants company and how they fit in. That's just such a strange, also like weird tentacle of it. Like, yeah, then I don't know, they're involved too.
Well, here's the deal: they straight up do, because without that company, Tyler would have never known that girl that worked at that press company, and she just had all of these email addresses of all of these music blogs, and thought the tune was cool. And so she, just without her supervisors knowing, sent it out to all of these different music blogs.
So I have some questions. Now you are officially a larger band. You were touring. You were doing, like, what are for some of the people that listen to our podcast that may not be familiar with your band, and also just because for my own kind of understanding, because I think it's sort of an OS moment, like what there's big festivals or big things that you've like been on that like people would know, or like that was for me. Again, what blew my mind is when you obviously were playing with Ryan in New York City. I'm like, oh my God, I know who this guy is. And then secondly, when I go and it's a legitimate room in New York City, you guys sold it out. And other people, like random people, New Yorkers, are singing along to your lyrics. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like that was like crazy for me. And then you were so kind to afterwards be like, hey, you want to hang out backstage? And I'm like, cool. Yeah. But like, has there been an OS moment for you of like at a festival or something like that, like that you would want to share? And then I want to kind of pick at some of those, because those are the things that really interest me.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's like, it's also strange from my perspective, because I'm not. I have to try and think what would someone be impressed by. I guess. I mean, I know that's not what you're asking, but to some degree, it's like. I mean, there's been some crazy stuff that we've done. I would say, let's call this part of the show crazy stuff that Wilderado has done.
I'll put a little graphic there for that.
Okay, here's what I will say. The first and craziest thing we ever did was we were invited for some reason to go and play a personal showcase for Rick Rubin.
Oh my
and
gosh.
This
wow.
was in 2016. And
for anybody who doesn't know who Google Rick Rubin. Every big song that's ever been made, Rick Rubin is connected.
He's got a little publishing. I think it's a publishing company that's called American Music. I'm pretty sure. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong. I don't really care. It's something like that. But we got invited to do that, and it was in 2016. And I think it's one thing that is Wilderado basically learned to play and perform in front of people. I mean, there was really no period of us playing. I mean, for me, I had done those 2 years, and but I was still wicked novice, and still am. Everything is perspective, but I would say as a band, we are incredibly green. And we've really cut our teeth over the last 10 years just on stage. And I mean, rehearsing and then touring. And we've gotten a lot better. But simply, we've practiced in front of people. So if you saw us as Bird Dog, you saw us pretty rough. But Rick Rubin saw maybe our 7th performance.
That is crazy.
Under 10, for sure.
Didn't he produce Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yeah, he's done. Yeah, I mean his discography is pretty nuts.
It's insane.
Like the Beastie Boys. Dude, the thing that's crazy about Rick Rubin though is his impact just on hip hop in general.
Yeah, he's a godfather.
So we went and did this showcase for him. And do you want me to keep saying other stuff that Wilderado's done?
Yeah, that and festivals, like big, like, and just weird things. That's the kind of stuff that, like, I'm interested in. Be like, when you have those out of body moments where you're like, what the heck am I doing here? And what is that? And why? Like, those are the moments that I think are really interesting.
Or just moments where you're just like, that was weird.
Every time we play a show, that's my biggest takeaway. That was weird. I mean, it's like, like I have no idea
you make eye contact with some weird fan and they're just like,
or I'm telling you, anything, or even just someone coming up and saying like, oh man, are you Max? I love your music. Like nothing happens without me thinking That was or funny. Like, this has got to be a huge joke. But the next crazy thing was definitely opening for Lindsey Buckingham. That was wild.
I was with you. I went backstage. You played in Milwaukee at the Riverside Theater.
Yeah.
And when I lived there, and you said, hey, come backstage before the show. We'll eat or we'll get a coffee or something. We're eating, and you just go, hey, that guy sitting right next to you, that's Lindsey Buckingham. I was just like,
yeah, which is Fleetwood Mac, and he's a part of Fleetwood Mac for all you weird listeners. But it was him and Christine McVie, who both of them were the songwriters in that band. That was wild because that came about with us just kind of accidentally getting the gig, and then he, after our third night, came and found us in our dressing room and asked us to do 22 more shows.
He personally sought you out.
Yeah. And he had told us he had listened to the music and talked about specific songs. And so that was definitely a wild moment.
Yeah.
That was one of those moments where, like, our parents thought we were cool. You know what I mean? I think it was like a nice amount of, like, I think all of our parents were like, all right, keep going, keep trying this. What else? I mean, I think in terms of just like the scope of Wilderado, I don't really know, man. What's so funny is, like, I mean, you know, I'm friends with loads of bands here. I'm friends with loads of bands in LA. It's just all such perspective in terms of what you're doing and what you're not doing. It's really easy to look at friends of mine that sold out Madison Square Garden and feel like selling out Kane's Ballroom in Tulsa, Oklahoma isn't that big of a deal. But it's also easy to, you know, do the exact opposite and realize selling out Kane's in Tulsa, Oklahoma 3 months in advance is a big deal. So it's like you go back and forth on the perspective of it all. And I think trying to give it levity to someone is an interesting thing that I've never really felt much pressure to do. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's all so crazy. Everything we get to do, I just try to see it as that getting to do. I mean, we played Lollapalooza this year. That was crazy. We played it for the second time, but we played it at like 3 p.m. And I mean, I think we played in front of 15,000 people. That show was insane. It was just crazy. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It was just so crazy to see that many people and the screen 4 stories high.
Yeah, how did you not end up watching your... That was the thing. I feel like I would just be like... Or did you find yourself, like, actually like, oh no, I'm getting like a fly drawn to light, like looking at the big screen of yourself?
I cannot tell you, again, the stuff that goes through my head is not, yeah, we're playing in front of 15,000 people and I'm a rock star. It is stuff like, what does that girl sign say? Or like, dude, so we were playing that show specific.
The girl needs to wash her hair, like something like that. Like,
was she looking at the collar of my shirt or my neck?
You know what I'd be worried about if I were you is, you know, having a microphone in front of that many people. I would catch myself one night just saying something and going, why are you talking right now? Stop talking.
You wouldn't believe it, Will. I mean, it is, and especially like joking with you guys my whole entire life, like the amount of concentration I have to put into turning it off is insane. Especially now, we're getting to this point where, like, a part of what's fun about our show is, like, the 4 of us are just so relaxed now. And which really opens you up for a huge amount of risk, because we all have microphones, but like we've got this thing called a yap mic, which is essentially by the drum set. There's this little mic, and you can step on a button, and it reaches only our front of house, which is the guy mixing the show, and then all of our ears, so we can all talk in this microphone like a walkie-talkie to each other, and.
I'm sure it's all very appropriate, and I'm sure it's all just very professional, and not be like,
how's your mother doing?
You wouldn't believe how professional it is. What you have to understand is it's like the relationship I have with the 2 of you is exactly like the one I have with the guys in the band now. I mean, it's like, it's nothing but like, this is all just fun and games. There's moments when it's not that way, but like, 90% of it is. And so, yeah, it is. I mean, it's like what would the three of us talk about if we had a mic in front of a bunch of people that no one else could hear?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But stuff like that makes it really fun because it's like nothing's that serious. We're not, it's like, I think there's so much pressure for this to be serious. I've found that like the best version of my, whatever you call it, talking on stage, whatever you want, what your version of that is, the best version of that for me is to plan nothing. Like, because lots of times I've been instructed or advised lots of times to basically outline something or what have you, but usually I'll just it's all just ad lib. And so lots of times I'll just start talking and having, nowhere to go with it. And yeah, it's gone bad.
Well, not bad, but just one of those things that like afterwards you're like, what was I talking about? Like, what was that?
Yeah, as much as you can imagine, it is that way.
You try out things to say, so you start like rattling off your mother's banana bread recipe or something. Like,
it's just things that just like don't make sense. There's no noun.
I'm always endlessly fascinated by the travel part of it. Like, do you go to a city and you go, like, beside like the obvious, like Boston, New York City, LA, like, but do you ever go to a city and go, man, we look forward to going to that place?
There's certain places like Boise, Idaho, just is the best.
Oh, Boise rock. Boise's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful and everybody's like excited that you're there. But you go to a place like Des Moines, Iowa, and you're gonna have a killer show.
Des Moines is awesome, by the way. I love Des Moines.
Omaha is a killer show. Austin, Texas is usually a really killer show. Anywhere in Arkansas kills. Anywhere in North Carolina absolutely kills. Anywhere in South Carolina absolutely kills.
How's the home tap? Like, how is coming back to like a Tulsa? Like, is it weird? Is it like
it's weird?
Decent? Yeah,
it's weird. I think it's weird because several reasons. There's a certain amount of like, I think there's a certain amount of me assuming people are like, wait a second, we know who you like. Come on, we know who you are, Max. Like, step down from there.
A little bit of imposter syndrome, I imagine. Yeah,
big time. What's cool about Tulsa is all the bands are cool. All the players are amazing, and we've been lucky that like, the radio station here is really kind of taken us on, and I don't know. It's fun to see like Wilderado actually kind of. I don't know even what you would say. It's cool to know that like people are kind of down on the band doing its thing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you play Philly, right? I feel like you texted me and I couldn't make it to the show, but you played Philly not long ago, right?
Philly's a cool crowd.
This is an interesting, like it's
I think Philly's cool. I think Philly feels tough, but it also feels exciting in blue collar, which I always really like. It's kind of a party crowd.
Yes. Everybody here, they drink like the Midwest, but they're not East Coast City. I feel like almost in any component, you're either having it's like a great show or it's a miserable show. I don't think there's any in between here. That's just how Philadelphia is. Like it's either going to be great or they're not going to like you from the beginning and they're going to eat you alive. It's one of the two.
The last one was fun. We've had scary one. The one with Ryan Bingham that we played in Philly. We were booed and we were heckled.
Why are you booed as musicians? How does that work?
It's Philadelphia, man. That's what they do. That's just what they do.
I don't know. I mean, it's like they're there to see Ryan Bingham and a bunch of guys at that point in tight pants came on playing silly songs and barely being able to do it.
Feeling your tight pants. Get off the stage! Go Birds!
I'll never forget, we got this message after one Lindsey Buckingham show, and it was from this this picture, like, way up in the rafters, and it was just their middle finger. And it was like, all we commented was, nice seats. But, I mean, yeah, there's been loads of that. Our fair share of it.
While we have just a little bit of time left, I want to shift. Are you cool with shifting out of the music?
Please.
Avenue? Yeah. All right. So you have 2 daughters. I have 2 boys, right? I've always taken note. Louis C.K. had this really great bit where he talks about the difference between girls and boys. I don't know if you've heard this, but in that bit, he says boys do damage to your property. They do damage that he said you can measure in dollars, right? He said girls do damage to your inner being. They, And so I found that to be true. I have 2 boys, and my house is a wreck. Like, everything gets destroyed. And there's writing, there's coloring on the walls. My boy just like a week ago took a marker to our couch. It's insanity.
Yeah.
On your end, do you feel like your girls mess with your inner being? Like, are they nice and sweet, but like they're manipulative? Like, do you find that to be true?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I will say they're not manipulative. They're both really wonderful. They're both so wonderful, but they do say some really piercing things. I mean, just literally just tonight, we're lying in bed reading a book, and then my daughter's looking at, I don't know if you can see this, in my hand I've got like you can't see it, but I've got a birthmark here. It's basically just like some red leopard print. She's looking at that and she's going, "What is that?" It's like, "Well, that's birthmark actually." I was like, "I got some leopard print." I kind of said it like I'm a badass. "I got some leopard print." And she was like, "Oh, is that the same thing as those red dots all over your legs and arms?" And I was like, "No, that's just my gross skin." And
That's just like that. That's just Daddy's normal skin.
Daddy's just getting old.
There's stuff like that a lot, but it's all just them being smart and good natured and not having any other thing to say. They kept calling their grandma an old lady tonight at dinner.
To her face.
When first pointing at her and be like, "Oh, the old lady's talking again."
Why do I picture them smoking as they're saying that? "Hey, old lady."
The thing is, they're both ruthless. They're hilarious. They're like, and they know that they know each other are hilarious. Like, it's like when like you got a little I don't know, you got a banter going with the buddy, and it's just kind of like, it's funny, and especially when no one else does, like they kind of tap into that where like they start fueling off of each other and it can get lethal.
Yeah.
For real.
Dude, my son is just, I mean,
I want to know about your redheaded.
Yeah, my Rowdy is my little redhead 2-year-old.
Well, it's your fault for naming him Rowdy.
I know. He asked for it.
That's a pretty cool name, though.
But here's the deal. I needed baseball names. That's why we named him Rowdy. I'm like, my boys don't have to play baseball, but I need a good baseball name.
He's going to be a quarterback at Texas Tech with a name like that, man. Rowdy Stags.
If baseball works out, he can't be called Napoleon.
Yeah.
No. All right, let's hear it. What's he doing? What's he up to? What's he breaking?
Well, today, my 2 boys are playing with the curtains, and my oldest says, "Hey, Rowdy, I'm going to hide you in the curtain." And he hides Rowdy in the curtain, and then Rowdy goes, "Boo!" And without missing a beat, my oldest just smacks him in the face. And I said, "What the hell did you do that for?" And he goes, "I had no idea." And Rowdy thought it was hilarious. He smacked him hard. It's mayhem.
I tell you what, though, that's kind of cool. It's like some brother stuff. There's a certain amount of like, I don't know, that kid's going to have perspective on what a slap in the face is. Both of them probably.
That's what having an older brother is, man.
That's true.
Speaking of kids, what's crazy is, your daughter and my son, your youngest daughter, my oldest son,
same birthday,
born the exact same day, which means Max and I were in heat at the exact same moment.
It's true. Always have been.
We're just different partners, but
you boys I've always been saying that these boys are in heat at the same time.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, if you go back to high school and if some weird old man had stumbled into Quick Trip and been like, you two are going to have kids on the exact same day in 2019, there's no way we would have believed. Get out of here, old man. Just another old man that we just ride off.
You throw your Route 44 cup at him. Ah! Get out of here.
It is wild though, dude. Well, and you always like with kids, what's so fun, the kids are such great like introduction to odd dining hours. Like we're going to restaurants at 4:45 sometimes. And it's like, why is no one here?
And then there's like a few old in there too.
And it's olds. Well,
That's a way to respect your senior citizens. Look at those oldies in the corner.
That is some language right there.
Sharing a bowl of rice, those olds.
Yeah, just plain rice.
Yeah.
And squished bananas.
Just squish bananas?
Lukewarm bowl of rice and some squished bananas with a little bit of salt on top. Not much salt. And some lukewarm water. There is just something wonderful though about 5 p.m. at a restaurant because it's
amazing.
None of the staff is tired. If they're tired from yesterday. So it's like that's a different kind of tired from today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a kind of tired that really should make them re-examine their life in general.
It's an introspective tired.
Which
really opens up for great waiter conversations.
Exactly.
And then the kitchen's on point. They're ready to rock.
Yeah.
There, your food's like magically appears.
Oh, it's there within 5 minutes. It's incredible.
It's like they're like, thank you for being here.
Max, this is awesome, man. You rock, dude. This is so much fun.
Yeah, well, I hope we don't get in trouble. Mostly I was just, I viewed this as a way to hang out with the two of you guys.
Well, that's how we look at it too. We're not making any money or anything. That's basically the reason me and we'll just do the podcast. It's the excuse for us to hang out for a couple hours each week.
It's really smart. It's like start a podcast with your friend and it's just built-in time to hang out.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, guys. We'll let you go. Brother.
Hey, I love you, dudes.
I love you, dude.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. That was fun. All right, gentlemen.
Love you all. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you, Max.
Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Brother. Bye.
Well,
what a delightful time with our good friend Max.
Great. You know, he's touring so much and he's, always out and about. I don't get to see him very often. So that was nice. That was fun.
Yeah. So for anybody that's interested, again, I don't know if we actually formally did this. That's Max from Wilderado. Huge successful band.
Did you say Wilderado?
Wilderado. It's hard to pronounce, tomato. It's just,
Wilderado if you're nasty, Wilderado if you want to be precise.
Yeah, exactly. But super, wildly successful band. Seriously, I mean, again, they're touring all over the country. Very cool that we can call him a friend. Pretty awesome stuff that he's willing to come on. Just this hard-hitting dude. I mean, between this, he had Rogan, he had Howard Stern, he had Call Her Daddy podcast, and he chose us.
He had all these offers, and he said, "You know who I'm going with? I'm going with the Dude podcast because those fellas, they ask the hard-hitting questions. That's why he chose us. That's why we're the best in the biz." I thought you were telling me he was actually on Howard Stern. I was like, oh my God, that's who we're actually going up against?
Yeah. Howard made him take his shirt off. I want to see you with your shirt off. Oh, you look good. Okay.
Joe Spin. That always confused me. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I never understood that as a kid. When did he stop doing that? Because he was kind of a pervert when he was younger.
He was a huge perv. And that's why I'm so confused. And now he's interviewing the presidential candidate.
He's renowned by so many people. And I'm like, when did he become that?
Man, Howard really does a great job interviewing. I'm like, this was the guy that growing up was just was measuring women's breasts on the air.
That always mystified me.
Yeah,
what
I don't
happened
know.
there?
I don't know. At some point,
Maybe
he
we're
became-
doing this wrong. Why didn't we ask Max to take his shirt off?
Yeah, we need to measure all our male friends' breasts on the
Picking
air.
up from Howard Stern.
Works for Howard, could work for a dude pod. Man, that's something that Kay and Sue would not like. I heard you were measuring your male friend's chest.
It's all for showbiz, Mom. You wouldn't understand.
Love, you don't get it.
We're trying to hit it big time.
Yep. That's the. I know that's what we're gonna have to do. If somehow we ever make it big, Will, and we end up having to make a biopic about our life, that's gonna be the fake plot that we create within it. You know, that doesn't really happen, and we'll have a dramatic.
You know if we have a biopic, I think we should have Howard Stern play us. He should be so lucky.
Yeah, he should. Yeah, he definitely should. Wow, it's great. Oh yeah, the Dude Podcast. Terrible Howard Stern impression. Anyway, please like, subscribe, turn this podcast on to your friends. Yeah, we're just a Philly and Tulsa, couple of Philly Tulsa guys, enjoying, hopefully making you guys laugh and talking to our friends and hopefully making your day interesting.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for listening. Remember to, put a little pep in that step and have a great week.